Well, this here is the smashing looking Jaguar F-Pace, and it is a traditional rival for the Audi Q5 as well as the Mercedes GLE, but it's also a rival to the Porsche Macan. And in terms of looks, I think this one looks a lot better than all those other cars because it looks a lot more striking and really does look a lot more bold than those other cars. But what do you think about its looks? Do let me know in the comment section below. Right now, I'm going to jump inside this car and tell you how good the interiors are. And if this review seems a little biased and a little positive towards Jaguar, don't blame me or tell me that I am biased and I've taken money from them. Blame Jaguar for making such a great product. Let's get started. Well, so here inside the cabin of the F-Pace, and I have to say that this cabin is very sporty and looks really premium. Now this, remember, is the top-end R Sport version, which means that you get these two-tone color seats. The seats themselves are very comfortable, great for relaxation because the support levels as well as the cushioning all across are very good. Support for your under thighs is really very good, and you also get these side bolsters because this is a sporty SUV, so most owners will of course be pushing it into corners, so these seats will hold you well when you decide to push it into a corner. Now in terms of overall quality, this car is pretty good, but some might say that it's not at par with its other German rivals, and I have to say that in terms of overall design, it is a sporty design, but the Mercedes GLE as well as the top-end GLS do feel a little more premium. But overall, the F-Pace looks sporty, looks very youthful, and definitely has a very urban appeal. Well, if you are someone who enjoys a lot of theatrics as well as drama, then you'll enjoy the fact that this swivel wheel kind of gear lever does pop out every time you turn the engine on using this start-stop button, and you'll also like this nice and easy to use infotainment system. It is a pretty crisp system to use. The only downside is that its fonts look a little outdated, and that's something that maybe Jaguar should update in the next version of this car. Well, people who are technological buffs will simply enjoy the digital display over here because you can change the menu settings and the gauges as well, and you can actually have the gauges set to full maps, and that is something which is very unique and also will remind you of Audi's virtual cockpit theme. But it is a very cool system over here inside the Jaguar F-Pace. Well, if you are someone who prefers to be chauffeur-driven all day, then you will not be disappointed inside the cabin of the F-Pace. As you can see, headroom is more than adequate. You get this huge sunroof. New also is more than generous, and I have adjusted the front seat for my height and my driving position, and my height for reference is 5'10". There is also place below the front seats where I can keep my feet and stretch them. So overall, it is a great place to be in the second row of the F-Pace because the seats also are very comfortable. The backrest angle really is very nice. You get excellent support for your under thighs, and the seats themselves are very relaxing and very comfortable. So on long journeys, you should be absolutely comfortable and be at peace inside the cabin of the Jaguar F-Pace. Well, another enjoyable part about this car is that the seat angle can be reclined by a fair bit, and it can be also moved up. So it depends on what kind of mood you're in. If you're in a very serious mood, you can sit up like this, and if you're in a relaxing mood, of course, you can just doze off to sleep. The only downside, or a couple of downsides, is the fact that there is a huge lump in the floor panel, so it's best to have two over here, not three. And also the AC center console does pop out quite a bit, so if you decide to jump around seats, you've got to be careful, otherwise you might just end up injuring yourself without knowing it. But otherwise, a great place to be for two people at the back. Well, unlike its German rivals, Jaguar has decided to give this car an actual spare wheel. It's not a space saver, so you get an actual spare wheel, and that is something that people who travel a lot on the highway will truly appreciate. On the negative though is the fact that because of that full-sized spare wheel, you get this weird ledge over here, so maybe for some people that could be a bit of an issue. But overall, I think it is a great boot and a very good boot, not only for those long highway trips but also for those airport transfers. And if you want more space, you can always drop the back seats down to get a flat and nice loading area. It really is a pretty good car in terms of boot capacity. Well, so this car comes with two engine options. There is of course a 2-liter diesel engine which makes about 177 bhp, and that is the engine which most people will choose. There is also the choice of a 3-liter engine which makes almost 300 bhp, and that is the engine which will simply blow your mind because in terms of performance, it is a very quick engine, and 0 to 100 takes only about 6.5 seconds, in fact less than 6.5 seconds according to Jaguar. And it is a phenomenal engine because it has 700 Nm of torque as well. That's the 3-liter engine that I'm talking about. The 2-liter engine is more than adequate for all your daily needs. In fact, it is also a very quick engine. 0 to 100 comes up in around 8 seconds on the 2-liter version. Now, whichever engine you choose, both of them come with an 8-speed automatic gearbox, and it is a very good gearbox. You also can choose the settings for the vehicle by using this button over here, and you can choose from dynamic or normal or economy settings on this car, as well as rain, ice and snow settings if you live, of course, in the hills and are driving a lot in icy conditions. But to be honest, the normal setting is more than enough, and most people will never change that setting, because even in that setting this car feels very sporty, feels very agile. The steering wheel is really crisp, it's very communicative, and it's also very precise. In fact, driving this car around, it is as agile as a big premium sporty hatchback. It does not feel like a big SUV. It feels as agile and as easy to drive as a sporty hatchback or a sporty saloon for that matter. So in that sense, Jaguar engineers have done a phenomenal job with the tuning of the chassis as well as the suspension and steering wheel. The chassis also is very, very sublime in terms of overall balance. It really feels very well balanced when you're pushing this car into corners. The grip level from the tires is absolutely phenomenal. In fact, this car does not feel its girth when you are pushing it into corners. It just feels as light and as agile as any sporty saloon. Well, Jaguar engineers have also done a commendable job with the suspension setup. Now, even though this car is a sporty SUV, it does offer you very good engagement for the driver and very sporty handling. The suspension is also very comfortable. Even if you put it in sport setting, it is a very comfortable suspension, because it just glides over the potholes. It simply just seems as if this car is running on air, and it simply glides over badly patched up roads. At higher speeds, this car feels very stable and very assuring on the highway. You can really be doing speeds in excess of 120 or 130 all day long, and this car will not break a sweat. Also remember that you have to be careful with your right leg, because this car has an ability to mask its speeds at higher speeds. So you've got to be very careful, because before you know it, this car will be doing speeds which are illegal on almost every Indian highway. So you've got to be very careful about that. A big reason for this car's ability to mask its speeds is the fact that it gets an 8-speed gearbox, and also the engine refinement, because this engine really does feel very refined inside the cabin, and isolation levels inside the cabin are very good. There's hardly any noise which enters the cabin. There is no tire noise, there is no wind noise, and there's absolutely no engine noise. In fact, if you're sitting at the back and this car is doing speeds in excess of 100 and the engine is spinning in its top gear, you will be feeling as if it's just idling, because it is actually just around 1400 or 1500 RPM, and backseat occupants will just think that the engine is on idle. Well, so overall, the Jaguar F-Pace is a hugely desirable SUV. And why do I say that? Well, simply because it looks stylish and very premium on the outside. It has a very comfortable cabin on the inside, and it is a very good SUV to drive. In fact, it doesn't feel like an SUV. It feels like a sedan, and a sporty sedan at that, when you drive it around. And what I'm trying to say is that if you're lucky enough to have this kind of cash lying around with you, then you should definitely go ahead and check out the Jaguar F-Pace at a dealership near you. It's bye for now, and thanks for watching.